Let me ask you something. How did you ring in the new year? Have you decided to turn over a new leaf? Are you planning to take up a new hobby or a sport? Do you need to kick the habit from something you did last year? Let's discuss.
Welcome to another Happy English podcast coming to you from New York City. And here's your English teacher, Michael.
All right, thank you, John, and thanks, everyone. It's Michael here from Happy English, and I help people speak English better. And this is Happy English Podcast, episode 703, New Year Idioms. Learning idioms can make your English conversation sound more natural. And today, we're going to look at 5 idioms you might use in your English conversations at the beginning of the year. By the end of this podcast, you'll learn these idioms and the history behind how we started saying them.
Now, listen to a conversation between two co-workers and be sure to focus on the idioms.
Hey, Rachel, how did you ring in the new year?
It was fantastic. I spent a quiet evening at home with my family. We rang in the new year by having a cozy dinner and then watching the countdown on TV.
Sounds nice. My friends and I hit the town, partied until midnight, and really rang in the new year with a bang.
Wow, Joe, that must have been fun. By the way, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
Absolutely. You know how I'm often late, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, I've decided to turn over a new leaf and kick the habit of procrastination this year. You'll see me here by 8:30 every morning.
Good for you, Joe. As for me, I've decided to go cold turkey on using social media. It's been taking too much of my time. Instead, I'm going to take up the piano.
That's awesome, Rachel. I also want to stick to a regular exercise routine this year. It's a tough one, but I'm going to go for it.
Sounds good. We can encourage each other to stick to our resolutions and make this year a great one.
Well, it sounds like their new year is off to a good start. Let's have a look at the idioms they used in the conversation. First of all, Joe asked Rachel how she rang in the new year. Back in the old days, ringing bells was used to celebrate the new year. So, to ring in the new year means to celebrate the moment when the new year arrives at midnight on December 31st. Here are some examples. Every year, John and Mary like to ring in the new year with a big family party and a countdown to midnight. Tom and Lisa decided to stay home and watch movies to ring in the new year. New York has a big event in Times Square to ring in the new year with live music and a spectacular fireworks display. The next one is to turn over a new leaf. It seems that back in the 16th century, a page of a book was known as a leaf. So in those days, when you turned over a new leaf, it meant that you were going to have something new to read. Well, as an idiom, when you turn over a new leaf, you change your life completely by doing something new or different than you've done before. For example, Susan decided to turn over a new leaf in the new year by eating healthier and exercising regularly. After years of struggling with waking up late and not being on time, David decided to turn over a new leaf by going to bed earlier and waking up on time. Karen realized she needed to turn over a new leaf about her spending habits, so she created a budget and plans to stick to it in the new year. Next, we have kick the habit. When you kick a ball, you send it away, right? So when you kick a bad habit, you send that bad habit away. With this image, kick the habit means to stop a bad habit, like something addictive. Here are some examples. Richard has been trying to kick the habit of smoking for years, but it's not easy. Linda knew she needed to kick the habit of constantly checking her phone, so she started leaving it in another room. For Kevin, the new year was a good time to kick the habit of eating junk food and start eating more nutritiously. The next one is to go cold turkey. According to Wikipedia, there was a story in a 19th century British magazine about a guy who stayed at his cousin's house for Christmas but was kind of an unwanted guest. Instead of a hot meal, his cousin served him slices of cold turkey for dinner for several days until he suddenly left the house in disgust. So, cold turkey became related to the idea of suddenly going away. When you go cold turkey, you stop doing something, like a bad habit, suddenly and not gradually. For example, Lisa knew it was time to quit caffeine, so she went cold turkey and switched to drinking decaf tea in the mornings. Mike decided to go cold turkey on his sugar intake, which meant no more desserts or sugary snacks. After years of smoking, James chose to quit smoking cold turkey on January 1st. The last one is to stick to something. We use the word stick as a verb to mean attach to something. You use glue to stick two pieces of paper together. Well, when you stick to something, you follow a plan or habit faithfully. In other words, you attach yourself to that plan or habit. Here are some examples. Paul made a resolution to stick to his workout routine this year, no matter how busy he gets. Mary promised herself she would stick to her budget and not overspend on unnecessary items. John encouraged his friend Mark to stick to their plan of eating healthier by cooking meals at home. Keep in mind, the best way to remember this and any vocabulary is to take the word or phrase, write it in a sentence that's true for you or true in your world, and then memorize your sentences. Well, that's it for today's English lesson. Thanks for sticking to this podcast. By the way, if you'd like to get more practice using your English, why don't you join my Podcast Learners Study Group? There, you can make new friends, join me and those friends for live group coaching every week, plus get the PDF transcript and audio download for every Happy English podcast in the past and in the future. And each episode has exercises where you can practice this English point with speaking and writing checked by me. To learn more or to see some of the example sentences from this lesson, just visit myhappyenglish.com and choose Podcast Lesson 703. Remember, learning another language is not easy, but it's not impossible, and I'm here to help you on your journey.
This podcast was brought to you by Happy English. Please visit myhappyenglish.com. Show your support for Happy English by leaving us a review. Get English, get happy, Happy English.